Y'all, can I tell you about these Tecovas boots? I don't know if y'all know this, but these boots are handmade, high quality, stylish, and comfortable right out of the box. I know we buy everything online these days, but boots are something you really should get fitted for. And it just so happens Tecovas is based right here in Austin. So come shop with me at the Tecovas store on South Congress or the Domain. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Austin, y'all, is there a Rainey Street serial killer? The Austin Police Department says no. Still, everybody seems to have an opinion, including my guest today, District 9 Council Member Zoe Caudry. CityCast Austin is brought to you by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Wednesday, July 31st. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. I am here today with District 9 Councilmember Zoe Caudry. Hello, Councilmember Caudry. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Nikki?
I'm great. You like to keep it casual, so I am going to call you Zoe. I'm just letting people know that I got permission.
I would be more offended if you called me Councilmember Caudry.
We're going to talk today about Lady Bird Lake and the rumors about whether or not we have a serial killer. So bodies have been turning up in Lady Bird Lake for a couple of years, and it sparked this rumor of the Rainey Street serial killer, and it has taken off. How did your office get involved in this whole thing?
You know, I had a family reach out to me right after the winter storm in 2023. It was the family of Jason John. Jason had been missing, I think, only for like 2-3 days at that point. You know, ultimately, we unfortunately found his body on day 10.
Forgive me, I can't remember how Jason passed away.
I believe his death was ruled a drowning. And I think what we had seen with Jason and other folks is, by all reports, that at the very least, there might have been excessive drinking. You know, we know outside of Jason and anyone else that there have been situations of over-serving at bars in the entertainment districts, both on 6th Street and on Rainey Street. And we've also know that there have been reports of folks getting their drinks spiked, both on 6th Street and Rainey Street. The unfortunate thing with Jason is because his body had been in the water for so long, they were unable to figure out if there was actually anything in his system. But we know through other instances and like I said, reports that we've heard from patrons to bar owners about, you know, folks having their drinks spiked.
So Jason wasn't the only person whose body has been found recently. In fact, the Austin Police Department told us that since 2022, there have been 11 people found, quote, in the water, not all of which were in Lady Bird Lake. They continued, quote, "It's worth noting that many of these individuals were experiencing challenges such as psychiatric issues and/or substance use disorders, and more than half had high blood alcohol levels at time of death." Here's the thing I think that we need to go back to. So Jason's family contacts you. Later, he was found. We find this family's person. We figure this out. What happens next? Like, how do we go from helping a family? Now, all of a sudden, there's a rumor.
I mean, I think it's just unfortunately social media at its worst, where people see it and then they're like, oh, there's something more nefarious there. And then someone's making a Facebook group, and someone's making a YouTube channel, and someone's interviewing this person and that person. And, you know, a lot of these interviews, truthfully, I either have had people tell me about them, and one of them I was actually so curious because it had almost 2 million views. I'm like, how does it have this many views, and who are they interviewing? And, you know, they don't interview anyone from the city, anyone from PD, anyone from any sort of forensics lab. They're documentaries about a serial killer, and they're interviewing people who just happen to live in Austin who believe there's a serial killer.
But not have anything to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. When it comes to the rumors, I think it's a disservice to people who actually passed away because of circumstances X, Y, and Z. And I think what the rumors do is it's a disservice on their memory. It also opens up wounds and starts, you know, a lot of families are grieving, you know, now it's just in their face, right? It's their pain, it's their loss, it's their sorrow, but it's someone else's entertainment. I would get calls from some of these mothers 2-3 in the morning, just crying, that, oh, I think someone killed my loved one, or someone killed my kid, or like, I think this is what happened to you guys. I'm like the psychological impact that it takes on these people. So for me, it's more of a headache because it takes away from the actual tragedy of the situation. It doesn't speak to actual solutions, but it just, people go down this rabbit hole of, APD's in on it and city council's in on it, and there's like darker and higher ups who are in on it, and it's just sad and unfortunate.
Do you think that rumors like this have gotten in the way of investigations?
I can't speak on the investigation side. I'm not APD. I'm not law enforcement, but I can't imagine that it helps, right? I feel like you're looking for an actual answer, or you're looking to kind of piece the puzzles together, and then rather than get puzzles, you're getting people who are, I don't know, throwing crayons and markers and Sharpies at you.
Right.
So I don't imagine it helping. And I think that the worst thing that I feel that has caused is, I've been in touch with several families who had lost loved ones during my time in office, and there was a few. And then before my time in office, there was a lot more. But once those families started seeing our office being proactive, they kind of came out of the shadows, and they had all this trauma and grief from all these years. And they reached out to us and just talked to us about their loved one who had passed away in their case. But they're on these pages and they're watching these videos, and now they're believing that their loved one was killed by a serial killer. We've gotten into closure of like, this is what happened, and they have the body and whatnot of their loved one. But now it's kind of opened up again. They themselves now believe there's a serial killer. And if they believe there's a serial killer, there's no closure, and we need to find out who did it. And it's just a cycle of grief, and not to be accusatory of any kind, but I do think some of these podcasters and YouTubers kind of, they profit off it. Some of these videos have millions and millions of views.
Can you tell me some more improvements that you guys have made specifically that you brought forth in y'all's office just to improve the safety around there?
Since I've been in office, we had a resolution that looked at improving safety conditions. We had a budget amendment on getting drink spiking testing strips. And then, we're also bringing something forward this, budget cycle. When Jason had disappeared, I worked really intimately with his family, and, would go for walks like in the middle of the night, just kind of, looking through the woods, are we finding a shoe? Are we finding, any trace of him? But there was one night I remember I was walking on the trail and I drifted away from the rest of the group. I didn't have a flashlight on me. I really poor eyesight, and I almost walked into the water.
What?
And that kind of was like very telling, that I can't imagine if someone had been drinking on Lady Bird Lake.
I mean, you don't even have to be drunk, really.
Yeah. You had a couple of drinks. It's 2-3 in the morning, and you're walking home, and you get just a little bit off course. You fall into this water. Do you know how to swim? Is it so cold that your body might go into like? There's so many different factors. So what we had brought forward in our resolution that we now see on the trailhead is fencing, because if there had been a fencer that night, I wouldn't have even been close to the water, because I would have just run into the fence. Signage, because the trailhead closes at 10 p.m. But folks don't know that. Lighting, right? The place was horrifically dark. Like I couldn't see the hand, in front of my face. Halo cameras, right? Because unfortunately, in Jason's case, but also other cases, there's only cameras up. There's some businesses, I forgot, on Rainy, and then after you get to a certain point, there's no businesses. There's a few apartment complexes, and there's the Holiday Inn hotel, but either the cameras don't face the trailhead, or they weren't working. And then we had a patrol of, I believe it started off as a park ranger, and then it kind of graduated to the EMS patrol that we saw save lives. It's unsafe, right? You have an entertainment district right by a body of water, and without the proper safety infrastructure. This is making sure that we have the infrastructure in place that makes a night out on Rainy Street or 6th Street or anywhere else in the city a safe night, right? No one should ever worry about going out late at night to hang out with friends and they shouldn't worry for a loved one. Are they going to come back home safe and sound? Just going off of Jason's family, I want to acknowledge their love of Jason and a lot of the work that we were able to get done. Them coming to City Hall, advocating for the fencing, the signage, the lighting, the halo cameras, the testing strips for drink spiking. We passed a budget amendment last cycle. I believe it was for $100,000. And that covers everything from, educational materials for bars. Bars were able to opt in. More than 70 bars in the Austin area had opted into the program. The city brought these like covers that you could put over drinks. So the program isn't just the strips itself. I'm very thankful that we've had bars in the city opt into the program.
I love that because I think sometimes Austin gets kind of a bad rap for just being a drinking city that, kind of like the Wild Wild West, because we do have so many bars. So I love that there are places that are like kind of buying into this. So can patrons just go to bars that are participating and ask for this stuff?
Yeah. And if you go to a bar that has those strips or the lids argument, we're really excited about it. And we're bringing forward an item on, continuing staffing of EMS. Because there was a report that came out by the EMS Association stating that they had saved about 50 folks who could have fallen victim into falling into Lady Bird Lake. We actually had someone who reached out to our office who said that that they were about to fall into the water and they were pulled to safety. It was initially a pilot with having EMS on the ground over there, and I remember reading an article, I think it was through Community Impact, that a week after the pilot ended, someone unfortunately drowned.
When the rumors and stuff started like floating around, I kept hearing people noting that it was bisexual and gay men that appeared to have been targeted.
Correct.
And it got out of hand for a while. Do you know how that got started? Or
yeah, so I don't know how that started, because I remember the first time I heard about it was through talking to one of Jason's relatives. They thought that he might have been targeted because he was a person of color, and that whoever was doing this targeting was targeting people of color who are gay. Jason wasn't gay, and I can't speak for the sexual orientation of every single person who has, unfortunately, passed away. But there were some people that I met who were LGBTQ Austinites who were folks of color, and there were others that weren't. It was somehow morphed into the whole rumor about a serial killer. Okay, well, there's a serial killer. Who are they targeting? Well, they're targeting gay men of color, 35 and younger. Like,
it just came out of nowhere, and Jason wasn't even gay.
Yeah, but to speak to your point, enough people say it, enough times, there's people who believed it, right?
Right. It sounds like we are, in fact, experiencing just like an increased number of bodies. Are we missing something? Has this happened before that you know of? Or is this something that's been happening and we're just making it bigger than it is right now?
There had been drownings in the area dating back, I believe, to like at the very least 2015, if not further back. I think, truthfully, the Jason case just got a lot of attention by the media. Like many other families who had lost loved ones before Jason, they never had as intimate of a working relationship with the council office. And I think we very much wanted to make sure that we did right by Jason and his family, that we did right by anyone who had lost anyone previously, and that we were going to make sure this was not going to continue to happen. So I think that's why I got more attention. And you did see some folks, fall into Lady Bird Lake and their bodies wash up after Jason's passing. But it had happened before then, too. There has been a bit of a decrease because we have put those safety infrastructure improvements in place. But that doesn't mean that something can't happen to someone else, or someone else falls in, or XYZ things happen, and then a body's in the water, and then it washes up on Lady Bird Lake. So, but we're going to continue to be very diligent. We know the work's not done.
I feel like when something like this happens, everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants your attention. Did you find that you were also getting a lot of, just like random media, investigators, lawmakers?
We're getting stuff from the media, media requests from, KXAN, KVUE, the typical news sources who come around City Hall. And then we were getting requests from these more, conspiracy theory types of like, there's a serial killer. Why are you hiding it? What do you know? Et cetera, et cetera. We all, obviously we didn't give that any oxygen and entertain those. We've had everyone from like murder podcasts to these like serial killer podcasts. I was actually getting ready to come to the office, and I'm, just like anyone else, certain YouTube channels I subscribe to, and there's one that I subscribe to that has murder mysteries and all that, and they uploaded one on the Rainey Street serial killer, right? We've gotten requests from our office, from Chris Cuomo's show. We've gotten requests from our office from different podcasts. We were in Japan of June of 2023. My wife has TikTok. I don't know how TikTok works. I never want to do TikTok, but she was scrolling and there was a Japanese TikToker that was talking about the Rainey Street, serial killer.
And you were also hearing from constituents, including families of other victims, not just Jason's, right?
We had a lot of families who had lost loved ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years before I took office, who were like, no one was there for us. So, I remember going into these like roundtables of sorts, it'd be myself and my staff, and maybe it was APD or it was this person or that person from the city. But then there would be other families there. It was the first time they ever had, an opportunity to talk about their loved one, right? To push the concerns. When we were brought forward our items, we had people come for public comment who spoke about their loved ones who had died, right? And they had pictures and they told us stories, and it was quite emotional. So I think it became a place where they could kind of come and grieve.
Those meetings sound a lot like that was the spark of how to change things moving forward. And so, which is kind of my favorite thing about City Hall. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, it's not always, doesn't always come in a timely way that people would like, or that it sometimes should happen. But when it does happen, it sparks this movement.
The highs are the highs of yourself and your neighbors, and the lows are the lows of yourself and your neighbors, right? Everyone's your neighbor.
How do you think these rumors can finally just be put to bed? Because it seems like all of the information, all of the real information is kind of getting out there. But what, in your opinion, what can we do better?
I think there's an unfortunate reality that misinformation and disinformation is eaten up by the public, and it just becomes a reality, right? You see it on other issues, and it's frustrating that you could tell someone, hey, like the sky is blue and the grass is green, and they'll still think everything is like red and purple.
The rumor has been in the news so much, despite, everybody's attempts to dispel it. Just recently, there was a body found on the trail, and APD had to come out and do like a press conference to be like, nope, that's like, before you even get started with these rumors about Lady Bird Lake, this person had, it was like, it ended up being like a self-inflicted thing. And so they had to release all that information to try to get ahead of this rumor.
Once a story's been told, it's harder to play defense. When there's certain groups or individuals who are bad actors and start making up stories of, what actually is happening. And now we're playing defense as a council. And even if we're telling the truth, it's just harder to get that truth out there. I think there's some people who will, whether they listen to this and be like, yeah, this was horrible things that happened. And I think there's other people who are going to be like, hey, they're all covering it up. It's a grand old conspiracy. They're all in on it. And I think that's just a sad reality.
Sometimes people just think what they're going to think. And you just, even if it's so wildly, untrue. Zoe Caudry, thank you so much for being here today, talking with me.
Great. Appreciate you, Nikki. Thanks for having me. Bye, y'all.
Goodbye. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. Do you think there's a serial killer on Rainey Street? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text at 512-200-2227. You can find links to Councilmember Zoe Caudry's social media in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.